I want to bring in my guests. We're joined with the man himself, Daniel McAdams. Daniel McAdams is executive director of the Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity. Um, what's happening, Daniel? You doing okay?
I'm doing all right, I guess. How are you, Jamal?
I'm doing okay. I brought you on because I am super curious about your take on Trump. He seems to have dementia, and he seems to can't not make up his mind. For one, he destroyed all notion of plausible deniability. That's assuming that anybody even believed that the U.S. wasn't involved. The U.S., Israel is just a proxy of the U.S. Anything they do is basically just the U.S. from my point of view. So there's that. Two, when Rubio comes out and Rubio says, we didn't have anything to do with this, Trump comes out, puts out a tweet that is effectively crowing about the attack. Like, I mean, when I say crowing, he is crowing. Like, well, you guys should have, listened to me, and I gave you 2 months. Okay, so if you gave him 2 months, then you're talking about an attack unprovoked on this country, but you're saying we as the U.S. as if they're your, military. So you've destroyed any notion of plausible deniability, even if it even existed, right? I mean, the reality of it is those planes are being refueled in Syria. The U.S. has given Israel all sorts of bombs, missiles, bullets, and everything else that it could give them in order to do this even before it happened. I believe it's either the Financial Times that is pointing out the U.S. fingerprints all over it. So Israel is a proxy for the United States. Trump puts this tweet out. And then when things go poorly, when things start going poorly, he puts this tweet out. U.S. had nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with this at all. If we're attacked in any way, shape, or form, the full strength and might of the U.S. Armed Forces are going to come down. As he pulls in the full force and might of the U.S. Armed Forces into the region with the idea that they're going to attack Iran. So this is like he can't seem to make up his mind, and his tweets are just getting more deranged as this gets worse and worse and worse. What is going on with him? Did somebody tell him, hey, this is going to go great? Don't worry, it'll be fine. And then it didn't go great, and it didn't go fine. Give me your thoughts on this. What's going on with Trump?
Well, I think the last part is right. I mean, that's what neocons do. This is going to be a cakewalk. We heard that in the run-up to the Iraq War. This is going to be a cakewalk. It'll be over in less than 2 weeks. We won't lose any Americans. Don't be such a naysayer. And we saw what happened in Iraq, and that's exactly how it works. That's how neocons do things. They lie. Netanyahu's been lying. He lied us into that war in Iraq. He came to Congress and said, without any doubt, Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. He flat out lied. He's flat out lied about Iran. But the neocons believe him because they want to. But what Trump has done is he's destroyed every single ounce of American credibility. And it's not just on Iran, because we were just getting ready to have another round of talks with Russia when the U.S. fingerprints were all over these attacks from within Russia on strategic bombers. We knew it. So the Russians know that the U.S. is not a negotiating partner. The Iranians now know they were lulled into a sense of, well, Israel's not going to attack us as long as we're talking to the Americans. We're getting closer to a deal. Trump himself said it. And then here you go, a sneak attack in the middle of it. Trump was abusing the notion of diplomacy with another country as a ruse to launch a sneak attack on that country which had done nothing to the United States. So nobody in their right mind would negotiate with the U.S. on anything, on a mutual dog-catching treaty. Nobody would negotiate with the U.S. So Trump has single-handedly destroyed American credibility.
Yeah, that's assuming we had any to begin with. But yeah, I agree with you. Whatever was there is evaporated. It's astonishing to me. And then there's this other element to this that you're already embroiled in a war in Ukraine. The U.S., from its own policy position, sent Hegseth to Taiwan, the Shangri-La, if I'm not mistaken, in Malaysia, to give this unhinged speech about that is effectively a declaration of war on China for all intents and purposes because it destroys the one China policy. So you are still embroiled in a war in Ukraine. You've just embroiled the United States into a war in Iran that, let's be honest, can go nuclear. Israel is a nuclear power. The U.S. may get involved in the conflict directly militarily, and all sorts of pressure is going to be on Trump to do so whatever he wants. And again, from my point of view, this is what he wanted anyway. And now you've It's like you're fighting two wars. You're literally fighting two wars. And it is very possible that you're doing everything in your power to get into a third in Taiwan. This is astonishing to me. You don't have the armaments for one. How are you going to do it for two? Give me your
And you
thoughts.
just lost. You just lost the war in Yemen. You just lost
And
the war against the Houthis. You ran away with your tail between your legs because you kept losing F-18s, and you almost lost an F-35, and you had to say was undisclosed damage on the carrier itself. It had to hobble off. The Truman had to hobble off somewhere to get fixed. So yeah, there's that too.
just amazing. I just find it to be amazing. Tel Aviv is getting wrecked. Haifa, wrecked. Some of the military bases, oil fields, wrecked. Wiseman, I think it's called Institute, wrecked. And it is true that they've been able to hit Iran. Fair enough. I mean, the sneak attack killed like 80 people by itself. But I am unaware of Israel taking damage like this in a war that they can't pull themselves out of. Do you think Trump is stupid enough to get the U.S. directly militarily involved? Like, and what I mean, just to be very clear, I mean, not just knocking out drones and missiles, not just refueling. I'm talking about flying sorties over Iran to bomb Iran directly. How far do we go?
Yeah, I would tell anyone who has not yet seen the footage of the hypersonic missile that hit Haifa, go put that on a loop and watch it. You think about every single U.S. military base in the region that's within range of that, and there are a lot of them. They cannot stop that weapon. The power of that weapon is shocking. This is what every single U.S. member of the military is going to face in the region because of Trump's stupidity is not a strong enough word, but because of him dragging us into the war. Someone who claims to like the military, to love the military, you're putting these guys in absolute danger for no gain, for the gain of a foreign country who started a war. But to your answer to your question, he's going to need a pretense. Something is going to have to happen. And I believe that some kind of false flag, something will happen, and the media will play it up. Oh my God! Look, the Iranians are hitting us. We've got to hit them back. That's what they're going to do, and all Americans will rally to the flag.
Oh, so you really think America's going to agree with us getting involved in this?
Well, the media is very, very powerful, and there are still a lot of boomers out there, digesting their Fox News and MSNBC 24/7. But I think Trump has hurt a lot of his base, and I have seen outlets that are normally very pro-Trump, very pro MAGA, who have been absolutely seething over this. Even things like the Federalist,
Yeah.
they've come out and really hammered him. So he's lost his base. He's destroyed his base. I don't know how he's going to get it back. But when the war drums start beating, it's very hard for Americans to stop listening. And Congress, let's don't forget Congress. Congress is 1,000% behind this because, of course, they won't fight the war. Neither will their kids. It's going to be the working middle class and poor who are in the military that are going to get blown to pieces.
They do understand that the missile that I just showed from Iran, I mean, look, people can say what they want. Iran is showing astonishing military capabilities and their ability to launch these strikes, and they are hitting with deadly accuracy in any target that they want. This is Haifa, hypersonic missile. It noticed lights go out immediately. Bam. It wasn't even in the sky for like a split second. Bam, lights out. That missile will take down a carrier.
Yes.
It will take down the carrier, and they can hit a carrier from where they are. So this is disastrous, and this is something that Trump pulled us into. Didn't have
Yes.
to. Pulled us into.
My guess is that the Iranians would not want to hit the carrier if the carrier is just perhaps shooting down Iranian missiles. This is just a guess. But I would guess if the carrier itself starts shooting missiles into Iran, then all bets are off. And you're right, there are going to be three carrier groups, one from the UK and two from the United States. One is steaming away from Taiwan, and some people are posting on X, now's your chance, trying to grab that. Because the U.S. is not paying attention. Snatch
But
that
see,
up.
that's the problem, though. If the U.S. gets directly militarily involved, those carriers are targets. They would have to be, right? And if Israel is being militarily defeated, which it is, they will run out of air defense, as they are doing. Iran right now is hitting with drones in the middle of the daytime. So their capability of resisting is getting weaker and weaker over the course of several days. If it's indeed true that the US gets involved, all of those carriers are fair game. I guess my thing is, from your point of view, how far does this go? I think we're on the brink of certain nuclear oblivion potentially. And I think it's a hurricane that can pull in other forces, other powers into the conflict.
It's been a long time since Israel has had to face any serious military opposition. You go back to the wars of the 60s and the 73 Yom Kippur War. That's been a long time ago. For Iranians, a devastating war is not that far away. You had the war between Iran and Iraq, which was devastating to Iran. So Iran understands the pain that can come with warfare. The Israelis don't. They're risk averse. That's why they like bombing Gaza, because Gaza can't shoot back. It's very easy for them to shoot a bunch of kids. It's a little harder to shoot at a country that has hypersonic weapons. So, from what I've read, and I'm not an expert, but Israel has about a couple of weeks left of air defense missiles, and then they will be out, and we don't have any to give them. We've already taken some from Ukraine and given them to Israel. They don't exist any longer. So, if as it appears, Iran is using some of its lower grade weapons, with some exceptions. Now, the Haifa was an exception. That was a high priority target. The fuel areas in Haifa. But if they have been using some of their lower level and they've saved some of the top ones for last, and I don't know if that's a fact, it's just what I've read. And then if that is time for when Israel runs out of air defense, Israel doesn't have the capacity to withstand these kinds of attacks. Psychologically, they don't have the capacity to withstand these kinds of attacks.
Does Trump base abandon him over this? That's a fascinating question to me. I mean, the president that has spent the entire time, I'm going to stop wars, not start them. And I know there are going to be some cultists that go with Trump, regardless of where he goes with this. But I'm seeing a split in his base, like people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. What is the guy name? The one that worked with him on his campaign. They're clearly against this. Matt Gaetz. But these are people who have been completely against this, saying this is outrageous. This is not what we voted for, etc. I mean, is that split real? I guess, and what's the significance of that split in regards to policy? I mean, ultimately, Donald Trump is going to have to take policy that may lead the country into a larger war with a country 3 times the size of Iraq that had no attack on us at all and no threat to us.
And the other thing that they're not counting on is, the Congress is the exception. Now, Congress is 100% devoted to Israel. That's a fact, because that's who funds their campaigns, of course. That's the sugar daddy. Although they use American taxpayer money to fund their campaigns, but of course they buy the loyalty. But if we discussed on your show before tomorrow, the American public, they can no longer count on the American public being blindly in support of Israel. The poll after poll continues to show that a majority of Americans, even Republicans, especially young Republicans, do not support Israel, do not have the kind of sympathy that previous generations have had for that plucky little country. So therefore, the answer to your question is, I think, yes, when you look at the tone in the United States, there is not going to be that support. And Americans are going to start calling their congressmen and saying, I don't care how you feel. Do not get us into this war. Yeah. So, and I have a son in his early 20s, so it's personal to me too. They're going to start calling these kids up, putting them out there in the meat grinder. No, thank you.
Do you really think they would? I mean, when they went to Iraq, they had a military buildup where it took, like 1 million men or how many ever men that they put on Iraq. Iran is 3 times the size of Iraq. Where would, I guess maybe this is more of a militaristic question. How does that work? Like, it's one thing if it's an air war. It's another thing if it's a ground war. Who's going to do this ground war buildup? I guess my point is I agree with you. I don't think the American public is going to be on board for this. I think the majority of the public is kind of like the guy playing the saxophone, the bombs falling on Tel Aviv, where it's like, you've earned it. You've murdered people for 2 years without any compunction, without any impunity. And you did it. And then complain, well, they have, airplanes hanging out in their houses, so we had no choice but to bomb the house. It's like, okay, dude, Fair enough. How do you think this turns out? And this could be the last question, just to get your prognostication on this going forward. What do you
Yeah, I
think
think
happens?
you're absolutely right. A ground invasion is out of the question. The U.S. simply couldn't do it, even if it wanted to. That's not in the equation. What the Israelis are going to do is they're going to beg and cajole, and do whatever else they can do to twist arms, and they have plenty of tools to do that. To get the U.S. to drop some strategic bombs on the Fordow nuclear plant, the one that's buried inside the mountain. That's what their ask is going to be. Look, we don't want to get Americans troops on the ground. We're not asking for anything. Just take a few of your bunker busters and blow that up, and you guys are off the hook. That's what I think the ask is going to be. The big question is, will Trump say yes or not? And if he does say yes and do it, what the Iranian reaction will be. That's what it's all about.
But that ask gets a carrier blown up.
Could, yeah, for sure.
I mean, because this is not just knocking out missiles and drones. This is them directly hitting Iran with this notion of regime change. Because it's not about the nukes. This has nothing to do with the nukes. Their first attack was a decapitation strike on the leadership of Iran.
That's what they do.
Yeah. So let's be clear. It's not about the nukes. So any attack that the United States does that tries to damage Iran, Iran has already said, straight from Moose, we're going to close it. We will target you also. I have a strong belief that Russia and China may not get involved militarily, but Lord knows, here's a weapon. Wherever you use it, use it. Here's intelligence. Wherever you use it, use it. Oh, there's a carrier. It's right there.
Yeah.
Well, you do whatever you want with it. Meaning, in the same way, this is a superpower conflict on some level, where the axis of the world hinges upon what happens in this conflict. If Iran loses, oblivion waits on the other side of that. I would argue Iran can't lose. I mean, or at the very least, Russia and China is not going to want that government to totter at all. The U.S. is in a position where they've now staked a claim on Israel, fighting a war that Israel, I would argue, can't win, which means the U.S. either is going to have to get involved directly militarily, meaning put their own forces in, like fighter bombers and all that stuff, or let their colony lose. That is a hell of a gamble to me. Just give me your take on it, and this could be the last question.
It's an insanely high stakes game, and there's no upside for the U.S. But if I'm a Russia or a China, as you point out, like there's the ship over there, because they want to disabuse the United States of this idea that it is absolutely invincible, that we can roam the seas everywhere, pushing everyone around. Taking out that will destroy the myth of U.S. invincibility. And I certainly don't wish any harm on American troops or ships or anything. But if I'm a Russian or Chinese, I'm going to say these guys need a wake-up call because they're going around messing things up everywhere. They need to realize that this is no longer 1975 or 1985 or 95 even. This is a different world. And so you could see something like this, and if you see chaos. Go ahead. Sorry. Yes.
No. Please, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Please.
No, not at all. And I'm just saying that. And then what's Israel do right now? Do they leave this reactor intact? What they really want is regime change. The nuclear stuff, as we know, is fake. And the question is like, what does Tulsi Gabbard do? She was down there saying they're not building a nuke. So either she's lying, in which case she should be fired for being incompetent, or they are disregarding her analysis and the analysis of the American Intelligence Committee to such a degree that I would resign in protest. How dare you do this? How dare you put me out here like this? I've just told you they're not doing it. You're using it as an excuse. I'm out of here. And that would be a blow as well to the president.
Daniel, I think the context of the world has changed, and it's changed before our eyes. I think there were several canaries in the coal mine that they weren't paying attention to, whether it was the trade war, whether it was the war in Iraq, in Ukraine. I think both of these things are canaries in the coal mine. And I kept telling my audience, Iran is being put in a position where it has to take its respect at the barrel of a gun. And unfortunately, that's where we are. And the catch becomes, how far does this go? And I don't really have an answer for it. Man, thank you for this. I really do appreciate it. Trump is being deranged. He's like a child with a gun, which should terrify all of us. He is not either getting wise counsel, he's being lied to, or he's just bloodthirsty. All three of those things can be true at once. So My man, you have a fantastic day, okay? Thank you for
You
this.
too, Joel.
And just
Take care.
so the audience will know, Daniel McAdams, he is Executive Director of the Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity. You can learn more about Daniel's work at the Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity by hitting ronpaulinstitute.org. You have a safe day, man. Be safe. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. We have come to the end of this